Hey there, cats in the cradle. I'm the Comics Kid 2099, and I'm here to discuss the Superman the Animated Series episode Father's Day. If you haven't seen it, go do so before you let me spoil the plot in this video starting now. Superman's parents are coming to Metropolis to visit him for Father's Day, and meanwhile, on Apokolips, Desaad, Bruno Mannheim, and Kalibak, Darkseid's son, are all asking Darkseid, the ruler of Apokolips, for a chance to defeat Superman. Kalibak wants to impress his father and disobeys his orders not to go to Earth. He gets his butt kicked by Superman, and Superman briefly meets Darkseid, who says that Superman's defeat will come, but not today. So this is another one of those episodes that I really liked, but I don't know how much I have to say about it. This is the first time we've seen Darkseid since he was briefly introduced to us in Tools of the Trade. Weirdly enough, it seems that Bruno Mannheim has free reign on Apokolips and is acting like he is just as important as one of the gods who serves Darkseid. I got the impression from Tools of the Trade that Mannheim was there to die or be enslaved, which does happen here when he questions Darkseid's judgment, but it is odd that for weeks or months, Mannheim has been just hanging out with the gods. But that's just a small nitpick, really. And speaking of nitpicks, hey, shouldn't Lois be a little bit suspicious that Clark and Superman are the same guy when Martha screams for Clark to be careful, and Clark is nowhere to be found, but Superman is? Don't get me wrong, I don't want Lois to spend all of her time trying to prove that Clark and Superman are one and the same like she did in the Silver Age, but if you are going to do that bit, then you need to follow it up, right? At least have Martha mention that Clark was off on the side where Lois didn't see him, saving bystanders from getting hit by debris or something like that. Again, a nitpick, but worth mentioning, I think. So even for someone like me who doesn't pick up on theme very easily, the theme of this episode is supposed to be really easy to pick up on. The episode is called Father's Day. We see Clark's father. We have a non-existent relationship between another father-son duo in Darkseid and Kalibak. But this theme isn't really explored. It's presented, but absolutely nothing is done with it. Sure, this is just a 20-minute episode, but even in 20 minutes, I think something could have been done here. I'm not entirely sure if this could have been explored more if we had more of an introduction to Darkseid before this episode. Sure, if you read comics, you know that he's the Space Devil, but many people who didn't read comics watched this series and probably still weren't sure who Darkseid was and what his deal was. He's evil, yes, he seemingly kills Kalibak, although we see him later in the Justice League cartoon, so I guess he just teleported him to the mines where Mannheim was, and then later told Desaad that Kalibak was dead. But this episode barely features Darkseid in it, and certainly doesn't do anything to tell us who he is or what he wants. Again, if you read the comics, you know he wants the anti-life equation, whatever that is, but you shouldn't be expected to know the comics to understand what's going on here. And even if you do read the comics, I don't entirely understand why Darkseid decides to let Superman live. He says that Superman's defeat must come later, but why? That isn't really explained here, and I don't think that they could have come up with a good explanation even if they did give us one here. For that matter, I do read the comics, and I still don't really understand what's going on in this episode. Darkseid wants Superman dead, but why? Superman doesn't even know Darkseid, and doesn't have anything to do with him. He's foiled Intergang's plans when Mannheim was working with Darkseid, but even then, Darkseid didn't really have any clear motivations for working with Intergang beyond generic wanting to take over the world. But this seems to imply that he has a specific hatred of Superman, and I don't get it. For that matter, why does Darkseid want to take over Earth? He's already got Apokolips. Is this an Alexander the Great thing where he cried when he had nothing left to conquer? I can maybe get behind that, but it needs to be made clearer than what it is here. So considering I just spent the whole video complaining about this episode, you may be wondering why I liked this episode as much as I did. And it may be a weak explanation, but I think it comes down to the Jack Kirby characters. If this episode had some other villain doing stuff for no discernible reason, with the bulk of the episode comprising a lengthy fight scene, I doubt I would have even stayed awake throughout the entire episode. But I love the Fourth World characters so much, so seeing them in this universe always works for me, even if I can't point to much that does actually work in the episode. So those are my thoughts on this episode. What did you guys think of the episode and of my review? If you liked one or the other, you should like, share, comment, and subscribe. And come check out my videos I'll be doing throughout the week if you are into that sort of thing. In the meantime, I'll catch you guys later. Have a good one.